Go.
What's going on, everybody? It's the Oddball Sports podcast coming out of Centerville, Ohio. We got our first episode today. So we're just going to start off with the introductions and, who we are and why we're doing this podcast. Boots, why don't you start us off?
All right, I'm Big Boots, baby. I'm a freshman at The Ohio State University. I'm 6'3", 206, played a bunch of line positions throughout my career in high school and ever since first grade, right? So, yeah. My favorite team's the Cincinnati Bengals, and I'm really excited for this year, especially with Joe Burrow, and I'm just really liking the direction we're taking.
All right, my name is Brody. I'm a junior at Centerville High School. I've been a Colts fan since day one, diehard Colts fan, love them. A little bit about me, I'm a baseball player. I play a little bit outfield, I play some infield. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, that's me then. My name's Alex. I graduated from Centerville High School last year. Played football ever since I was in first grade. Diehard Packers fan. I'm thankful enough to be part-time owner. Like the direction we're heading in this year, getting the job done. It's not always pretty, but I'm excited to see where the season goes from here.
I'm Kobe. I'm also a junior at Centerville High School. I've been playing football for a while. My favorite team, Cincinnati Bengals, had season tickets since 2014. So really excited about this season, and I'm great to have this podcast, with my brothers and just talk about sports and the game that we love. So moving into our first topic today, we have our winners and losers from Week 10. And I think starting us off is going to be –
It's going to be me.
Alex, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Alex. Why don't you start us off?
So Week 10 was a little nuts. I'll start off with the winners first. I have the Cardinals beating Buffalo 32-30. Great team win for them, especially in the way how it ended. They weren't supposed to win that game. They go in, really good Buffalo team comes, visits them at home, and they are fortunate enough to get a win off that crazy D-Hop play. I got the Patriots beating Baltimore. They're coming off that week where they had a shaky win against the Jets, possibly the worst team of all time. So nothing to be too proud of as a New England fan, but then you get a good win against a team like Baltimore up there near the top in the AFC North, 23-17 that one was. Dolphins beat the Chargers. Nothing too crazy there. Chargers, one of those lower record teams, beat them 29-21. But for the Dolphins, they're just on that win streak. They got their new quarterback. Defense is humming. Think they're going in a really good direction. And then my last winner for the week is going to be the Giants beating the Eagles 27-17, improving to 3-7. Sounds really bad, but we all know with this NFC East this year, they're actually inching their way up towards that first place spot. Right off the flip of that game, I'm going to start with my losers at the Eagles, losing to the Giants. Big loss for them. A team that's been inching their way up to try them for the first position in that division, and they drop a game by 10 points to a team that's not looked to be too explosive on offense. They give up 27 there. Ravens losing to New England. That's just not something that can happen when you're trying to get a team identity of just winning in dominant fashion. Lamar Jackson not playing too well, kind of becoming a pattern this year. And obviously weather had a lot to do with it. They're a more run-based team, but still you can't let that one happen. Seahawks lose a close one to the Rams, 23-16. Not necessarily too bad of a loss, but that does put them on a 2-game losing streak now when they were looked at to be the NFC favorites not too long ago. And then I have the Titans losing to the Colts, 34-17. Another team that started off very hot early, was looked to be possibly the favorite from the AFC, and now they're, I believe, 3 losses deep. So, and then just a little side note, I got the Saints as possibly one of the losers, even though they won their game. Drew Brees out. They're saying 2 to 3 weeks with broken ribs and a collapsed lung. But, I mean, an aging quarterback, I believe he's 41. That's actually going to be looking to be more like 5 to 6 weeks out, which puts them in a hole because you just never know what type of Jameis Winston we're going to see out there. 30 touchdowns, 30 picks. It's kind of just a toss-up with that guy. So we'll see how they finish up this little game stretch here.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on the Patriots being a winner this week, Alex. I saw it more as a loss, to be honest, because, they're not in a position to like make the playoffs. There's so many 6-win teams in the AFC. It's a very strong AFC class, right? And so that win kind of set them behind because at this point they know they're not going to make the playoffs. Even if they win out, they'll be 9-7, and that's not going to get you in this tough AFC. Okay, and then also I feel like at this point they should just start tanking for a lower draft pick. Like Cam Newton isn't the answer in the future. Their roster is aging, and honestly, I could see Bill Belichick leaving for bigger and greater things.
Not sure there, because I mean, I do see the Ravens coming as a team that like they're 2 or 3 wins out of being in the hunt. I mean, I don't know. When you have a strong start to a season, right? Like they slipped up with the COVID-19 affecting them because you had Cam and Stephon out. Then Stephon goes and gets injured. He just now is coming back, really giving that defense their identity back. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, you see their first couple games, a good win week 1, and then just about knocked off the Seahawks week 2. The team definitely has potential, but I do agree with you there. Not too much of a future if they can't get things rolling quickly. Not sure if Cam Newton is going to be the answer past this 1 year on his contract, but I do see where you're coming from there.
I mean, the future in New England is definitely going to depend on how well Cam Newton's going to play. Because, I mean, if you can't, like Cam Newton in 2015 when he won the MVP, he's not ever going to get back to that. At least I don't think he's going to get back to that. And there's no way the Patriots win if Cam Newton doesn't play well going forward.
No, yeah, 100%.
Well, and the thing for me is I never really know, considering how things are going right now, the NFL is proposing a rule to put 2 extra teams in the playoffs this year because of, canceled games due to COVID. So, looking back, this could be a turning point for the Patriots, and you kind of see the team take off and lead in a winning direction. Or at the end of the season, we could look back and say, "Wow, good win, set them back 2 to 3 draft picks. Now they're working with little less than what they could have."
Mm-hmm.
Especially for our
next
winners and losers, we're gonna have Brody. Brody takes us off.
All right, so starting with my winners, first off, like Alex, I've got the Cardinals. I mean, you come in. I mean, they were playing at home, but you come in, you play a Bills team who has, at least in my eyes, a perennial MVP candidate for years to come in Josh Allen. Dude plays lights out. The Bills have been a great team all year. You come in, you take care of business. DeAndre Hopkins just, destroys triple coverage there at the end. But you watch that game throughout. I mean, it was a close game throughout the whole game, and the Cardinals just never went away, and they ended up proving themselves in the end. Kyler Murray also on pace to throw for 4,000, rush for 1,000. I mean, no quarterback's ever done that before. I mean, Kyler Murray in that offense is just a beast. And my other winner, I got Nyheim Hines. This is going to sound like a biased Colts fan, but, I mean, ever since Marlon Mack's got hurt, he's stepped in and filled some big shoes. Everyone thought that, Marlon Mack's going down, Jonathan Taylor's going to be the answer. Jonathan Taylor's taken a back seat to a guy who initially in Indianapolis has been looked at as the second back because he just could never outplay Marlon Mack. When we get in the game, he wouldn't perform. But this year, he's gone crazy. There's been multiple weeks where he's had something incredible happen. Like a couple weeks prior, he had the spinning touchdown. That was insane. He's definitely solidifying himself as a reliable back in this league. And yeah. I think for him, what's important is he's going to keep staying on this Colts roster, and he's going to keep getting touches because this guy's gone crazy. Now, moving on, though, for my losers, Baltimore Ravens have to be talked about. You lose to a below-average New England Patriots team, who, like we had mentioned earlier, is getting a lot older. Again, like I said, their performance is going to depend on Cam Newton. Or, no, wrong thing. I was looking at something else. I just completely fumbled my words. My bad, guys. No, they lost New England. Cam Newton played well, but even still, Super Cam's not back. You lose to a team like New England when you're considered an elite contender, and then your quarterback plays below average after winning an MVP. It's not going to be easy for us as NFL fans to sit here and say, hey, this team could win a Super Bowl. I think they're the same team that they were the year prior, but a little worse. my other loser is going to be Ryan Tannehill because while he's not really known as the team's weapon, it's much rather a guy behind him in the form of Derrick Henry. He's been very inconsistent at quarterback, and it really showed this week on Thursday Night Football against the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, 34-17 just is not a good game, especially in the NFL. And it's not easy to pick up wins. And with inconsistent quarterback play, you're not going to be picking up wins. Again, you also got to look back, like, a week or two prior, they lost to the Bengals by, 11 points?
Yeah.
A lot of that's on quarterback play. I mean, you can't blame the whole game on a quarterback, but when you're losing games and your quarterback's not performing, you've really got to look into yourself and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, no, definitely a consistent trend in all their losses this year has been below average play from Tannehill, which sometimes you even see result into like lower yardage for Henry as well.
Yeah, they've dropped 3 of the last 4 games after starting 5-0. So I don't know. The Titans, they're one of those teams. They're like either really hot or really cold, in my opinion. Like they probably could have won that Bengals game if they just fed Derrick Henry, but they put too much weight on Tannehill's shoulders, and that ultimately lost them that game. And then this game, the Colts were just a better team. Their defense dominated. The Titans couldn't get anything going.
Yeah, for sure. Ben, I think you're next on the winners and losers. Why don't you give us yours?
All right. I only got 2 winners this week. Obviously, the Cardinals. That put them atop the NFC West. And, they could be a legitimate threat in the NFC, in my opinion, just with that explosive playability. Their defense needs a little bit of work, but most defenses do in this league. Honestly, like in the NFC, I only see 3 teams contending for that championship. The Green Bay, it depends on which Green Bay team we get, the Saints and the Cardinals. My other winner is Aaron Rodgers because I feel like this game helped him rebound from that horrific game against the Bucs, and like his MVP status is like he's working more towards that MVP. And I feel like he's starting to erase that bad game a little bit. My biggest losers are Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. Russell Wilson, in my eyes, is no longer an MVP candidate. 2 bad games in a row can't happen when you're an MVP. Seahawks, obviously, as a team, losing the last 2. Their defense is atrocious, and I'm a Bengals fan, so yeah. I also, a big loser is Nick Chubb fantasy owners because, that extra 6 points would have been really nice in some leagues, obviously. But, he just wanted to win, and I respect him for that. We're going to have to keep an eye, though, on whether or not he's a must start in fantasy because, like, him and Kareem Hunt split carries, like, almost dead evenly, and they get the same amount of production. So, other loser, Coach Lou, however you say his last name, Bengals defensive coordinator, he needs to leave. He needs to get fired, like, right now. He's so bad. I can't watch him coach our defense anymore because it's just terrible. Like, we have good starts. Like, we made him have a 3 and out drive, and then boom, special teams error. Then defense made a stop, but like ultimately the defense broke down across that game. And then my last biggest loser is Lamar Jackson. He's a shell of his former self right now. That might be on the offensive coordinator because everybody knows his playbook apparently now. But, he needs to get his shit together and figure it out.
For sure.
I was going to say, to kind of touch back on your Seahawks comment, I totally agree with you. And I think one thing we're all starting to see right now is Russell Wilson's expected to win the entire game himself. As a Packers fan, I know plenty about this, relying on Aaron Rodgers to win games solely. It's a hard thing to try and watch because you look at Russell Wilson, he's a top 3 talent in the league at his position easily. And the numbers are slowly just going to keep going downward. I mean, they only put up 16 points this week when they're coming off weeks. I mean, they're losing games to like the Bills, where I believe they put up 33 points. So they need more production out of that defense. One person specifically, Jamal Adams, needs to step up. He can't keep being used as just a blitz package. He's going to have to cover. He's going to have to spread around the field more. I mean, you can't give up 2 first-rounders for a guy and him have such a little impact on your defensive production.
Yeah, when you look back at the beginning of the season, you watch that Seahawks-Cowboys game, and my first impression was like, oh my God, I think Jamal Adams is going to be Defensive Player of the Year. Like, you look at how he played in that game against the Cowboys, he was tearing it up. Like, he was in the backfield every play. And you see now, since they've kind of taken him out of their zone coverage game, and it's been just strictly for blitzes, you see the opposing offense kind of adapt to that and change their game, and it kind of takes them out of the game. And it's unfortunate. I think he should be on the field more because, like you said, you can't give up 2 first-round picks for a guy that you're going to sub in for blitz packages.
Yeah.
So for my winners and losers this week, my biggest winner is Tua. Tua specifically, also the Dolphins. I think, Tua started off 3-0 now with the last 2 wins being really good wins. I mean, the Rams are a good team, as we saw. They just beat the Seahawks, and they just went into
you can pick the perfect
San Diego.
Bit of a slip up there.
They just went to San Diego, and they took care of business against a team that's way better than the record speaks for them. I think, when you look back on the stats, they are a team that's only lost by 1 possession or less. Like, they have not lost by a whole lot. I think a similar situation for that, it speaks to the Bengals. But, it's a good – any win in the NFL is a good win. I think the Chargers are a way better team than the Ravens or than their record gives them credit for. So I think it was a good win for Tua and the Dolphins to improve. People are kind of looking at him more of a, not just a playoff contender, but, what they can do in the playoffs. It also is starting to give Tua more Rookie of the Year hype. I know he didn't start immediately, so that's what's kind of set him back from Joe Burrow. And even Justin Herbert's being set back from Joe Burrow being off for, I think it was 2 weeks. But with his great play, it's putting him in that conversation at least. My second biggest winner, of course, I think everybody had this, is the Cardinals and Kyler Murray. It was a tough loss last week. They needed to bounce back. I think they played a great team game. Stuck one out at the very end. Like I said, any win in the NFL is a great win. And most of that is led by Kyler Murray. And I think if he improves his decision-making and what he does with the football, it can put him into serious MVP contention right up with Rodgers and Russell Wilson. Another bright spot for the Cardinals is that defense looks a lot better. A quick stat from PFF. Simmons, their 8th overall pick, played in more snaps in the past 2 weeks than he's played in any other games, improving his overall grade last week to a 78.1. Budda Baker had the highest defensive rating for the Cardinals with an 84.8. Once again, just a young player coming into his skin. Really great job by the Cardinals and their defense getting that good win. My biggest loser for the week would have to be the Titans. And unlike most people, I'm not really pinning this on Ryan Tannehill. I think the Titans lost that game more solely because of their defense. Now, the offense did only put up 17 points, but however, you have to give credit to that Indianapolis Colts defense. It's a really good defense, arguably one of the best in the NFL. Their defense is ranked in the dead last on third down percentage and getting off the field, and really damn near the bottom on getting off the field in the red zone. Really bad defense when you need it the most. But I'm not discrediting Mike Vrabel. I still think he's a great defensive head coach. They do take another bad loss because they did fall to the Bengals, but I think that's another Chargers situation where they are better than what their record speaks for. You look at the Bengals games, they're in a lot of close ones. My other biggest loser for this week is Carson Wentz. No touchdowns in the game. That hurts. Giants, who I think are just okay. They're getting better, but I still think they're just okay. James Bradbury is still one of the best cornerbacks in the league, in my opinion. He's not the same MVP candidate that we saw in 2017 before he tore his ACL, unfortunately. Hate to see it, but he's just not the same. Bottom half quarterback PFF, 63.8 grade, most interceptions by any quarterback. And it wouldn't matter as much to any team as it would in Philly. Those fans are tough. that city is tough to play for. They're starting to get impatient with his play, and it's starting to show.
Now, do you think it's time for Jalen Hurts to come in, or do you think he still deserves more of a chance?
Right, and that's where you get the pressure from the fan base kind of screaming Jalen Hurts when you really look at him as kind of like what Lamar Jackson was used for his rookie year with John Harbaugh, how he kind of incorporated him in like special packages, wildcat, and at wide receiver, running back. He did as much as he could with them, and I think they're trying to do the same thing with Jalen Hurts. Maybe we could see a breakout sophomore year from Jalen Hurts if he wins a starting job, or Doug Peterson starts to do more with him. Moving into our next segment, we have our MVP candidates and who we have leading our MVP race.
Just a moment, Kobe. I want to add one more biggest loser, the Texans, because it shows how valuable D-Hop was. By that catch, not only that catch, but it's just his play throughout the season has been phenomenal. So that's a big loss to the Texans because their ex-general manager / head coach got basically nothing for him. And if he's not the top wide receiver, he's in the top 3. So you can't get rid of that.
I think he's one of the best receivers in the NFL, and to give him up for a second-round pick and a wash running back, in my opinion, is just straight ignorant. But
it was a robbery by the Cardinals.
It was a great move by the Cardinals, and I think him and Kyler Murray are going to be a deadly duo for years to come. All right, so moving to our next segment, we got the MVP race. Who's our biggest sleeper and our biggest favorite? Starting us off, we got Brody.
All right, well, I'm going to do my front runner first. Originally I was going to say Russell Wilson because dude's been balling out, but after this week, you lose another game. You lose it to the Rams, who are a good football team, but again, that's a game you're expected to win as Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. And while you can't pin all the losses on him because the defense has been atrocious, I mean, even still, you can't be losing these games, especially if you're considered your leader. You got to win these games, which is why I'm going to give it to Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers, as everyone knows who watched the NFL draft, they drafted Jordan Love, which terrible pick. But, yeah, looking at you, Alex.
Don't remind me.
Aaron Rodgers came out with a chip on his shoulder after they drafted no help and drafted a quarterback that they thought was going to replace him here within a year or two. Aaron Rodgers comes out here having to prove himself again, and he's done just that. This guy has been lights out every week. And while some of the weeks, the offense isn't scoring a ton of points, like you had mentioned earlier, they scored 17 this week. Aaron Rodgers has been consistently elite this whole season. And if you just look throughout his career, he's been that guy throughout his career, which is why I don't know why people write him off. Aaron Rodgers is the definite MVP this year, and you can't change my mind.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Ben, who you got for your sleeper and your favorite to win the MVP this year?
Brody, who was your sleeper?
Oh, yeah. Okay. My sleeper, honestly, Kyler Murray. It could just be because he plays for the Cardinals, which is a small market team, not getting much recognition. I mean, they are now they're winning a lot of games, but, overall in the history of the NFL, they've been a small market team. And I think with Kyler's situation, they got a great situation down there. Like I said earlier, on pace for 4,000 in the air, 1,000 on the ground. Guy's been doing it all. His decision-making's been iffy here and there. But with DeAndre Hopkins on the field, that's a weapon that you can go to almost every play if you need a bailout. I mean, we saw it this week with the triple coverage catch. Even still, Kyler Murray, got to give him my sleeper just solely because he's been so good this year.
My favorite's going to have to be Patrick Mahomes. And while I want him to win it, and I think he could definitely win it, I think it's going to be like a situation where he's not going to win it because he didn't beat his 2018 self, like his MVP run in that year. Because, he's on pace to be, as equal. Because, right now he got 25 pass touchdowns, only 1 interception, 115 QBR. But I think that because of how great he was in 2018, if he doesn't, pass that, he won't win it, even if he's the most valuable player in the league. My sleeper is Dalvin Cook or Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, like Brody said, loved everything he said about him. Dalvin Cook, though, he was hurt for a game, and he still is leading the league in rushing yards, rushing touchdowns. Man's has better stats than both Adrian Peterson and LaDainian Tomlinson when they won their MVPs. So I definitely could see him as a big sleeper if he continues his production and if the Vikings go anywhere. I don't really know. Kirk Cousins isn't the best. Their defense has been hit or miss recently. But I'm gonna have to say like the most valuable player to one team has to be Joe Burrow, just because the Bengals would literally be so bad without him. Like they wouldn't be even close in these games without him.
Yeah.
Like that's what MVP means, but I don't think like the media or like the NFL now, that's not what they give MVP for. It's more of who's the best player instead of the most valuable. But yeah, so my favorite's Patrick Mahomes, sleeper Dalvin Cook or Kyler Murray, and then the most impactful player to a team is Joe Burrow.
Yeah, and I don't want to get started about Joe Burrow, but if you look at his stats, man, most pass attempts by any quarterback in the NFL, top 3 in passing yards. I mean, all of his teammates rally around him for every single game. If you look at the Titans game, they won't be in that. Like last year's Bengals team isn't in that game. Last year's Bengals team isn't in half the games they're in this year, strictly because of the play of Joe Burrow and how the team rallies around him. But moving into my favorite to win MVP, in my opinion, like Birdie was Russell Wilson, but due to his lackluster performance the past couple of weeks, it's just not looking good for him. I mean, he can pick it back up and kind of regain that lead towards the home stretch of the season, but I really don't see it happening. I think, with the horrible defense that they have, it's just, I don't see it going too well for Russell Wilson. So because of that, I'm going to say it's Aaron Rodgers, highest graded PFF quarterback in the NFL, top 5 in almost every single statistic you can imagine for quarterbacks. Great QBR. And when you look at the term MVP, most valuable player, and like Ben was saying, to their team, I mean, nobody makes their receivers look better than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's working with Devontae Adams, who I think is an above-average wide receiver. I don't think he's bad by any means, but I think Aaron Rodgers makes him look better than what he is sometimes because of his perfect ball placement and the arm strength he's got. And people overlook that in Aaron Rodgers. Everybody looks at Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. If you look at some of these throws that Aaron Rodgers makes, he can zip it. He's got that arm strength just like anyone else in the NFL. And you look at another receiver like Allen Lazard, who's kind of coming into his skin, especially this year. He's been playing well, but a large part of that is all due to Aaron Rodgers. So I think because of that, he's my MVP for right now, but that's also subject to change because my sleeper for MVP would be Kyler Murray. And, you look at what he's done the past few weeks, he's put his team in positions to win the game, or he has won that game for him. And it's not only what he's doing with his arm, it's what he's doing with his legs. Super smart recognition of the defense, not very smart decision-making. I think if his decision-making improves, he can seriously move up in the MVP contention and, ultimately steal it from Aaron Rodgers, a guy like Aaron Rodgers or a guy like Russell Wilson.
Counting out Mahomes like this. Okay.
All right, so moving into our second to last segment, we got our midseason awards. So we're going to start off with our offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year.
Who's your MVP favorite and sleeper?
Speaking of sleeping, you just slept on Alex, but
Yeah, we already know.
I'm the biggest sleeper of the episode. Okay.
gosh, Kobe.
No. At this point in time, okay, I have enough respect for these guys that I want to put in 2 honorable mentions before I say my current MVP. Josh Allen, 2,871 yards, 21-7 touchdown to interception ratio. He's led his team to 7-3. He just led his team to the playoffs last year. Very valuable to the Bills organization and to any success that team wants to have. Second honorable mention might be a bit of a surprise here. Aaron Rodgers. He has his team 7-2, first in the NFC currently, where we stand with the tiebreaker over the Saints from Week 3. Only 3 interceptions, 26 touchdowns. I mean, like Kobe said, he's making his receivers look better than they are potentially. Either way, he's got just the biggest impact on any offense that one person can have other than maybe Joe Burrow. I could see that too. Very similar situations there. My MVP currently is going to be Patrick Mahomes. 25-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He's got his team sitting 8-1. In my opinion, without a doubt, best team in the AFC. I would expect that to be the team coming out of the AFC. I don't think the Steelers have proven quite enough yet, but that's a topic for a later time. But I mean, you look at Aaron Rodgers, you look at Josh Allen, they have few weapons. Aaron Rodgers got the running back, the receiver, Josh Allen, he's got Stephon Diggs now, solid receiver too, and Josh Brown, Cole Beasley stepping up. But you look at Patrick Mahomes, and I just have to give him the MVP in the long run because, I mean, he's got Tyreek Hill, he's got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they brought in Le'Veon Bell, Travis Kelce, best tight end in the league. He's just got so many weapons that it helps him be so consistent week in, week out. So I do think his numbers are going to slowly improve over the course of time here as we wrap up the season. And then just like just about everyone else, sleeper's got to be Kyler Murray. I mean, 17-8 ratio, not necessarily the best, but I mean, 2,375 passing yards. And then this stat's a little crazy to me. 604 rushing yards to this point. In 2019, as a whole, 544 yards. He's already passed that, and we're heading into week 11. This guy's going to rush for over 1,000 yards and probably be well on his way to about 3,500 to 4,000 yards passing. His connection with DeAndre Hopkins just improves every week. So definitely a versatile player. Definitely agree, though, with the decision-making. It needs to improve, but if and when it does, that's a guy you're going to see right at the top of the conversation come week 16 and 17.
Isn't Kyler Murray top 10 in rushing TDs too?
I believe so, yeah.
I think he's top 5 too, actually, because he has 10.
Yeah, he's a touchdown magnet. I mean, he's at 27 touchdowns on the season total, which is more than most of the other MVP candidates, I believe. So he's balling out.
Scary about Kyler too is he's a second-year player. Like,
yeah, I mean,
he's crazy.
It's only up from here for him, no doubt.
Yeah. And that's a trend we've kind of seen with the last few MVPs when you look at, last year with Lamar Jackson, the year before that. I mean, he wasn't technically a rookie, but Patrick Mahomes won that MVP his rookie season because, he didn't play the first year because Alex Smith, but kind of worked his way into there. And, you're starting to see these younger guys really start to take control of the NFL, and the defenses don't have enough time to adapt and change, and it's showing. All right, so for our next segment, we got our favorites for midseason awards, our Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Defensive Player of the Year, and our Coach of the Year. Also, some comeback Player of the Years. But one starting us off is Ben.
All right, so with the Offensive Rookie of the Year, I'm going to be realistic in the fact that, yes, I would love Joe Burrow to win it, and I think he is the most important rookie in this class for one team. However, I think the narrative in the media and the whole world is going to try to give it to Justin Herbert just because of his production. But I just think that's a little unfair considering Joe Burrow is doing the same, maybe a little bit less with with a not as good supporting cast. Justin Herbert's supporting cast is pretty decent. Their defense is pretty solid. And his receivers get open. Keenan Allen, great receiver, always making those nice cuts, getting great separation, and he's got those great deep balls. But I just feel like if you look past the fact that Justin Herbert has a little bit more TDs right now, it should go to Joe Burrow. My Defensive Rookie of the Year is Jeremy Chin or Anthony Winfield Jr. The only reason why there's an or, because I love Jeremy Chin. I think he's a fantastic player. I saw recently that he has an injury going on. I don't know how long that's going to keep him out for, and that could potentially hurt his chances at Defensive Rookie of the Year because Anthony Winfield Jr. is doing great. He's making plays. My Coach of the Year has to be Brian Flores. He took a rebuilding team into a playoff contender in one season. I think it's illogical to think it's anybody else. Mike Tomlin, I usually see when I'm going through Bleacher Report or something as the Coach of the Year. I'm it's not good. He's been a winning coach his entire career. Like that doesn't just because he's has a 9-0 team doesn't make him the coach of the year this year. Definitely has to be Brian Flores. For offensive player of the year, it has to be if Kyler Murray doesn't win MVP, it has to be Kyler Murray, Dalvin Cook, or Alvin Kamara. Each one of those players is essential for the offensive production of their teams. I would also consider Devontae Adams just by how he's playing recently with all the touchdowns after being hurt for a little bit. My defense player of the year is TJ Watt. He's the one Steeler I can appreciate because he's humble and like he can back up his talk when he talks because he's a great player. Well, I don't think he'll win back-to-back defense player of the years like JJ, but I think he's well on his way to be one of the best in the business. Comeback player of the year, it has to be Alex Smith, but I can see the argument for Big Ben just because Big Ben was out for like 2 years almost. And so is Alex Smith, but Big Ben's been playing the whole season, has better production than Alex Smith. But I think it's just great that Alex Smith is back. I'm so like happy and proud of him because like he almost died. Like that was the thing. Like he almost died. That was scary. And like he had the Joe Theismann curse and everything, and he's still coming back to play and get work done. And I just feel like you got to commend him for that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Alex, what you got?
All right, so offensive rookie of the year, hands down, it's got to be either Herbert or Burrow. I am definitely going to lean towards Herbert for similar reasons like Ben. The supporting cast there is just like it's just so much better that you'd think his stats potentially have a higher ceiling than Burrow's would. But definitely something to mention is Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins coming together is a lethal duo for Burrow to look to. Mixon coming back is going to help maybe make their offense a little bit less predictable, but you also have Eckler coming back for the Chargers. So I am leaning towards Herbert at the moment. Both quarterbacks are studs. Also honorable mention there would be James Robinson carrying the rock, undrafted, playing like a dog. I mean, it's something to respect for sure. Defense rookie of the year, maybe a little bit of surprise here, but you got all these talented DBs coming in from this latest draft. I'm going to give it to Julian Blackmon where we're at right now. 2 interceptions, he's turning the ball over, he's all over the field, and a very impressive stat for a rookie is these last 5 games, he's averaging anywhere from 94 to 100% of snaps. So he's just someone that his team clearly relies on 24/7 on defense. And you look at the defense he plays for, I mean, they're top 5 in all different stats when it comes to defensive play as a whole. So I think he's emerging as a leader as a very young guy on such a talented defense. My offensive player of the year, I have a lone candidate in Dalvin Cook. Running backs never typically make their way up to the MVP race. It can happen, and with his numbers, I think it should happen. But offensive player of the year definitely got to be Dalvin Cook, 954 yards, 12 TDs, averaging 5.5 per carry. I mean, that's some crazy stats for how deep into the season we are. And then defensive player of the year, just out of consistency, I think it's got to be Aaron Donald. 9 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. He's a play wrecker. I mean, you see videos all over Instagram of him throwing 3 guys at a time. I mean, he's just a grown man, so much stronger than anyone else that's on the field at any given moment. But yes, TJ Watt, definitely someone to mention in that same race. My coach of the year is going to be Bruce Arians. Coming in, completely rebuilt team. You bring in Tom Brady. A lot of people calling for him to be a system quarterback once he leaves New England. Not much production there, but he brings in so many people around Tom Brady. He's doing a great job. More of a props to that front office as a whole, anyway. But he's got him sitting at 7-3 right now, right there, about 1 game out of the NFC top, with a bunch of different teams there. But I mean, that's a team that definitely a lot of teams are going to be fearing here. Saints with Drew Brees going down, look for that team to shoot up to the top of the NFC South. And then comeback player of the year, I'd have to give it to Alex Smith. His story's just great. I mean, the guy suffers from such a bad injury and he's already back on the field playing. Like that's just football right there. I mean, that's just grit, and it's something you got to respect. Undeniably, Ben Roethlisberger's in there too, though. just because the production he's getting while coming back. But I just don't know if you can deny the story of Alex Smith enough to not give it to him.
Yeah, definitely. Brody, what you got?
All right, so I mean, mainstream media is going to hate on me for this because they love Justin Herbert. But I mean, living in Dayton, Ohio, I watch a lot of Bengals games, and seeing what Joe Burrow does week in and week out for this Bengals team is ridiculous. He's putting up 300-yard games constantly, and while the argument is he throws the most in the NFL, he has to for that team. The Bengals need him throwing the football because with him throwing the football, the Bengals will win games. It was shown with the Tennessee Titans. And I know Kobe and I, we went to the Bengals-Browns game. Big play that sticks out to me was, I think it was second, third quarter, somewhere in there. This dude throws a laser in between two guys to T. Higgins in the front of the end zone. Mm-hmm. Great read, great play. I don't see Justin Herbert making plays like that. I mean, he had that one really good, no-look pass, whatever it was this last week, or it might have been the week before, but just watching Joe Burrow week in and week out, he just continues to prove that he's a rookie that can play like a veteran. He's a great quarterback. Moving on to my defensive rookie of the year, it's got to be Antoine Winfield Jr. He reminds me a lot of, I would have said Jamal Adams while he was, I will say Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams while he was on the Jets because, he was in every play. I almost call him a positionless defensive player. Antoine Winfield is all over the field for that Buccaneers team. I was looking at a chart on ESPN a couple days ago. They had a chart on where he lines up on defense. There is not 1 yard marker where he has not lined up. This guy can do it all for the Buccaneers at such a young age, which is ridiculous to me. My coach of the year, I've been giving the Cardinals a lot of love today, and I'm going to do it again. Cliff Kingsbury, great coach. He's a genius. I mean, mainstream says Mike Tomlin, but I mean, he like Ben said, he wins all the time. Just because you have a 9-0 team doesn't mean that, you deserve to be coach of the year. Cliff Kingsbury's done a great job with this Cardinals team, especially after having a rough year last year and a rougher year prior. Team's rebuilding. They're on the rise. I think they're good to come. I think they're going to be good coming forward. Brian Flores, definitely an honorable mention, though. And offensive player of the year wise, I got Dalvin Cook, and it's not close. I mean, we're talking about his production from that side of the ball. He's insane. I can't think of a time. I got him on my fantasy team. I'm just going to say thank you, Dalvin Cook, because you have bailed me out week in and week out. Dude, averaging 5.5 a carry and doing what you're doing, that's ridiculous. And defensive player for me, I agree with you, Alex. It's got to be Aaron Donald. Like you said, he's a play wrecker. Dude trains with knives. He's crazy. I watch Aaron Donald every week, and I'm amazed every week in and week out at what he can do. 9 sacks when he plays the D tackle position. 9 sacks from there. That's pretty good, especially through what are we, week 9, week 10?
Week 10.
Yeah.
I think one of the most impressive parts about him is that's someone that's known to be a play wrecker. You try. I mean, when you're an offensive coordinator, you're trying your best to keep him out of the game, and he just refuses. You double team him, triple team him, and he'll still find his way past. So it's definitely something crazy to watch and something we're going to look back on as one of the legends of this generation.
Yeah. And, you look at another athletic freak in the league, you see DK Metcalf and you see how big and, how ripped he is. And I saw an interview where they were interviewing both of them. They said Aaron Donald bench presses twice as much as DK Metcalf can. I mean, that's absolutely crazy. I mean, I know he's a wide receiver and he's D tackle, but he's still a strong dude. That just goes to show how absolutely play wrecking and strong that Aaron Donald is. So for my offensive rookie of the year, no bias. This is who I have had since, week 4, but it's Joe Burrow. And yeah, it's close. I think Justin Herbert's definitely putting up really good numbers. Joe Burrow throughout the rest of the season has a much easier schedule than Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's receivers bail him out more than Joe Burrow's receivers do. I think Joe Burrow didn't have that good of a game last week. against the Steelers. He missed a lot of throws that he usually makes. Justin Herbert's been making those throws, but I think once we end the season this year, we're going to look at Joe Burrow as a better offensive rookie of the year candidate than we are Justin Herbert. Like I said earlier in the show, Tua, he has potential to seriously be an offensive rookie of the year candidate if he has a really, really strong second half of the season, but it's going to be harder for him because he missed the entire first half of the season. Defensive rookie of the year, for me, it's Patrick Queen. He's been doing things for Ravens defense that is already really good, and he made them so much better. And I know every single Packer fan is absolutely livid about how he's been playing because, to pass up on somebody like that, and Antoine Winfield, he was also there, but to go with a backup quarterback, it's got to be tough.
Backup quarterback that was going to fall to the second round, no less. Or maybe.
Can't confirm. Yeah. Very tough.
Don't forget about A.J. Dillon, though. Don't forget about that draft pick.
Yeah,
a third stringer.
Definitely sucks to see a team so close to being a legit contender and knowing you're Patrick Queen away from the Super Bowl, you're Winfield Jr. away, just so close, but can't expect anything with that front office.
And y'all almost have Megatron. You see that? Those interviews with Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Y'all should
at least you have Jair Alexander.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was also another rumor that came out that Aaron Rodgers wanted to trade for Tyrone Calico when he was still on the Titans, and he was begging the front office of the Packers, and the Packers just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But moving forward, on my offensive player of the year favorites, I think at quarterback, if they don't win MVP, it's got to either be Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes are having great seasons. Wide receiver-wise, to me, the top two receivers are Stephon Diggs and DeAndre Hopkins. Stephon Diggs has always had a great route running, but I think his speed and hands are really catching up to that. He's becoming not just a top-tier receiver, but a top-5 receiver. In my opinion, the second best receiver in the league. DeAndre Hopkins just does what he does week in and week out. Him and Kyler Murray, like I said, are going to be dangerous for the years to come. Looking at running back, it's Dalvin Cook. And if it's not Dalvin Cook, you see him slow down towards the rest of the season. Derrick Henry statistically really turns it on for the second half of the season. I can see him running away with it this second half of the season. My defensive player of the year, like I said, very first week of the season, I thought it was Jamal Adams, no question. If he played like he did the rest of the season against the Cowboys like he did week one, like I said, it would be no question. But right now, it's got to either be Aaron Donald, T.J. Watt, or Myles Garrett if you're giving it to a defensive lineman. But if you want to move into the secondary, I think you can't overlook a true shutdown corner. And for me, that's been James Bradbury. And I know he's on a bad team in the Giants, but if you look at his numbers, he doesn't get a whole lot of passes thrown to him, and that's because his receivers aren't open. He sticks those people like glue, a true shutdown cornerback. And you can't overlook a guy like Jesse Bates, who plays center field really well for the Cincinnati Bengals, the highest graded safety in the NFL by far. No, it's not even close. So I think he's going to be having a good season. Not necessarily defensive player of the year season, but looking forward, you never know what we can find. Now, yeah, I truly think he's the best safety in the league, and it's not that close.
It's not close.
So moving into our last segment, we'll end every show with a personal segment. So today I'm going to lead it. Friday or Saturday, we're probably going to get one from Alex. My personal segment is going to be my top 10 for the power rankings this week. And going into week 11, I'm going to start at 10 and work my way up to 1. At 10, I have the Baltimore Ravens. Took a really hard loss to the New England Patriots. I think it's just absolutely derailing. It's like Lamar Jackson said, they know the defense knows their plays when they go up to the line of scrimmage. They're calling their plays, and you can see it. Defenses are shutting them down. It's getting hard for Lamar Jackson to sit in the pocket and make throws that he usually isn't making. And, they've been shutting down the run game. So it's getting a lot harder on Lamar Jackson, and I think Lamar Jackson is folding under that pressure. But they can pick it up at the end of the season. The way that's looking right now, though, I think it's going to fall apart. Number 9, I have the Colts. Came off a really good win against Titans. Kind of bumped the Titans out of the top 10, in my opinion, this week. At 8, I have the Miami Dolphins. 3 really good wins, moving them up into contention. 7, I have the Buffalo Bills. Even though they took a loss, it was a really hard loss to what I think is a really good Cardinals team. So I wouldn't necessarily put them out of the top 10 for that loss. They're still a top 10 team, in my opinion. They still have a really good chance to make a Super Bowl push in the playoffs. 6, I have the Cardinals. I think Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins are going to be a really deadly duo. What's missing that I would like to see is the run game outside of Kyler Murray. We all know what Kyler Murray can do with his feet, but straight up running the football is getting a lot tougher for them, and then it's making the pass game a lot tougher because the defense can't respect the run game. Although they are having a really good defensive showing the last couple weeks. At 5, I have Pittsburgh. I know it's hard to say there's 4 better teams than them when they haven't lost a game. But if you look at the teams that they beat, you have 1 to 2 quality wins in there. They beat a Ravens team that's falling apart. And they beat a Titans team that is also falling apart. So I don't really know how much quality you have in those 9-0 wins. And what really stinks is that for the later half of the season, we're also getting not that good at competition, some really easy wins that they can rattle off. I see them easily going 16-0, but a win's really hard to come by in the NFL no matter how good you are. So I wouldn't not expect a 16-0 season, but I wouldn't be surprised if they found a way to lose a couple of those games.
To go on the Steelers just for a little bit, I feel like they are. I agree somewhat with your 5 ranking, but I think they could be higher but for the record. But the problem is that's holding them back is they rely on their defense to create their offensive potential. Like you saw that in the Bengals game. Their defensive special teams literally made sure the offense was given a chance to score because the Bengals shut them down 3-0 for a series, right? We fumbled the punt. They're in the red zone, ready to go. They get a field goal. They should have scored against the Bengals defense. They should have scored, but I think their offense is just too hot and cold, too reliant on the defense to make all the plays, and that's why I think if they have to go against like some team like the Chiefs or other teams like with high offensive potential, like I could definitely see them making a run in the playoffs. But I think once they meet the Chiefs, though, they're gonna get hit by a brick wall.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why they're so low is because we haven't really seen them perform under a real hot spotlight. You can argue that the Ravens are a quality win, but they're really trending downwards, and it's hard to give them strong credibility after that. At 4, I have Tampa Bay. And this one's interesting because moving into the season, I thought they had really good potential, but they also have a pretty old team, but they have talent all across the board. Then they go in, and they start off really hot, and you think they're up in the top 3. Then they go into New Orleans and just get absolutely shut down. It was almost difficult to watch if you're a Tampa Bay fan because you had such high hopes, and now you're really thinking that your actual integrity and how good you really are is at jeopardy. But I think they had a good bounce back week against the Carolina Panthers, and that moves me to number 3, which I think is New Orleans Saints. You can't put them under Tampa Bay because of how they played against them, but I still think that New Orleans, without Drew Brees, can win games with Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. Sean Payton is a genius. Number 2, I have Green Bay. They've trended upwards after kind of a mid-season struggle. It's nice to see Aaron Rodgers, playing like the MVP that I think he's going to be, and that offense is really clicking. Defense isn't playing as bad as really expected, or they were playing. But you can't argue number 1, I think, is Kansas City Chiefs, no doubt. Defense is there, stellar quarterback play, wide receivers just extremely talented across the board. Clyde Edwards-Helaire really slept on. I think he got more touches, we could be talking about him as an offensive rookie of the year candidate, just like Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I agree with your list for the most part, but when I look at the bottom there, the same way you were able to move the Titans out, for me, I'm moving the Ravens out and I'm making a spot for a team that's uptrending. Kansas City's only loss on the year so far.
Raiders.
Everything's clicking. The
Yes,
Oakland or the Las
That was
Vegas
click for the
Raiders.
Raiders.
Yeah, I see the Raiders as a legit contender in the AFC when everything's clicking, and I
yes.
think Gruden's really got a good grasp on that franchise right now.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah, and
only
you kind of question how good Gruden could really be at last season because of the the old style. He's not an offensive head coach with which a lot of head coaches are. And things weren't really looking well for the Raiders. So I think they really turned it on this season. I think you're right. They could easily make a push for the top 10. In these next couple weeks.
especially how they've been dominating in recent games. Like if you look at the Broncos game, just complete shutdown D, fantastic offensive play. And their only 3 losses, Bills, good team, great team. They're pretty good. Bucks, they're top 4. Their one blemish is the Patriots loss, but that was week 3, and at that point the Patriots were still they were still pretty good. Like they just gave Seattle all they could handle, and Seattle was thought to be a top team at that point. They beat the Saints. They beat I think the Panthers are way better than what their record states. Like they are in games every time. They are playing their hearts out, and they beat the Panthers, who are a good team. They beat the Chargers. Chargers are also better than what the record states. They've all played close games. They beat the Chiefs, handed Russell Wilson his first, not Russell, geez, Patrick Mahomes his first loss of more than 7 points. That was a big win. They just wanted more in that one. They had an ugly game with the Raiders Browns, but that was terrible field conditions. I mean, they won a dogfight, and I commend them for that. And if you look at their
Yeah,
schedule, Falcons, trash. Jets, pretty garbage. Colts, Raiders, that'll be a great game. Another Chargers game, which will probably be it's a 8:20 p.m. game. Probably be very nice. Dolphins, Raiders. I think the Dolphin Raiders game is going to be key in the wild card placement, especially for the
definitely.
teams. It will probably be a deciding factor on their seeding. If not, they're getting into the playoffs. And then they have the Broncos again, who they just demolished. So
Yeah. I just think they do such a good job of closing out games, which is something like when you look towards the top of the list, like the Packers, it's not a team that necessarily closes out wins very well. Beating Jacksonville by 4. I mean, even dropping games in those same scenarios to Minnesota, close games that you just weren't able to finish. The Raiders do very good. For the most part, they definitely had a close one there with the Chargers, but they do good at closing out the game, not backing off, and I think that a lot of that is due to Gruden. I think he's a great coach.
My big thing with the Raiders is I feel like Derek Carr gets slept on a lot. Like
yes,
that backfield, like the Raiders backfield is definitely very talented. That duo of Derek Carr and Josh Jacobs. I mean, Josh
Yeah,
Jacobs is a second-year player, right? I mean,
Mhm.
dude runs the ball hard. He runs it well. Derek
Yeah.
Carr can always find an open guy. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I watch a few Raiders games. I don't watch a ton, but I mean, Derek Carr throws to guys who you wouldn't really look at as huge weapons per se, and he
yeah,
still finds a way to get the production there and gets the job done. And that defense for them just closes games week in, week out.
He's
yeah.
he
One
knows
person you,
very well.
yeah, one person you do have to mention though that I think is huge for them is Darren Waller.
Yes, yes.
Fantastic.
He is so he's great. He's got to
Stretches the
be
field.
definitely the most athletic tight end. I wouldn't say the best necessarily, but he's just so fast. It's like having a ginormous receiver out there.
If you ever play with him in Madden, you will literally dominate games.
Darren Waller's not a glitch.
If
Yeah,
he's doing a fantasy draft or something and he's on your team, literally just throw it to him every time.
yeah. I was watching the game and underthrown by Carr, mixture of an underthrow
Mhm.
and Waller kind of just bouncing off his hands. But I mean, Waller takes an outside route, and I mean, we're talking about a tight end here, burns a corner and has himself wide open deep for a touchdown if the throw's there. So I just think he's huge to have week in, week out, even if he doesn't have the biggest game.
And they got Henry Ruggs, huge speedster, can really clear out that
Definitely.
coverage, man, get Darren Waller open. I feel like if they had like a third offensive piece and shore up the defense some more, they could really be looking for a Super Bowl run at least the next couple seasons.
Yeah. Well, if anyone's got anything left to say, I think we're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll wrap up the first episode. We'll see you either Friday or Saturday on Oddball Sports. We're looking forward to see you. Thanks for listening.
All right.